Okay. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. I welcome everybody to this webinar. It's another opportunity to actually discuss and be able to consider issues in our country like we always do. The things that are going on in our country, Nigeria. It's been a very fantastic a few days. There have been quite a lot of development here and there, So, and of course, yesterday in Osun State, there were further developments, and yesterday, yesterday signaled the changing of guards in Osun State. As it does appear that we now have we can there's a new governor elect in the person of Governor Adegboyega. Mr. Adeleke in Osun State, Ademola Adeleke, or Senator Ademola Adeleke. Some will call him the dancing senator. Some will say the dancing kettle. He's got quite a lot of names, and irrespective of what you call him, the fact of the matter is, from the facts and figures of yesterday, except the courts of the land say otherwise. Of course, the electoral process is never complete without the judicial process as well. Some contestants always choose to explore the instrumentality of the judiciary as well if they've got something to complain about, if they think there's something that is not really fine with the election. Of course, there's every chance to pursue a grievance in the court of law, and of course say to the court to have a look. Even though from everything we heard yesterday, so far, and we I think there's that tendency to believe that it was a just and fair election. Obviously, we're not on ground. We're only going off. We're only going off what we've read, in the press. We're just going to discuss them today. Look at several things, and just basically look at it, consider it, and what are the things that actually, because for some it was expected, for some it wasn't expected, and the manner of the victory as well, and of course this time around there were, I believe, of course, starting with the deft political calculation that the PDP made in choosing their deputy from Ife zone, knowing that all the while that you've always had a situation whereby Chief Iyola Omishore will clear all the votes, most of the votes, from the Ife senatorial district. But this time around, the PDP actually, it was I would say a master stroke. They actually picked a deputy. So, it was a choice for the people of Ife, support, a government, a governor and a deputy that we still play identity politics, whether we like it or not. It is a fact in Nigeria, we still play identity politics. So we had a situation whereby it was a case of, basically back a ticket that had no Ife person, or one of our sons, or one of our own sons, who was running as deputy. Of course, don't forget that Iyola Omishore, Senator Iyola Omishore, is the incumbent national secretary of the All People's Congress, and of course the APC themselves. I think they made their own calculation as well. I believe they just felt, the elections, the votes from the previous one, so long as they can marry it with the Ife votes, victory could be taken for granted. But all of a sudden, something happened in Oshogbo, something happened in Ile-Ife, and of course, Something happened in Oshobo, something happened in Ilesha. But of course, even the Ife votes that were banked on either to nothing. And of course, the governor himself is from a zone with probably some of the smallest number of votes in the entire state. He was from a minority voting area, so quite a lot of things happened. But with me tonight is PLIDEite Sola Fayemi to help us analyze the votes. What happened? What happened? Especially, people said this man is empty, quote and unquote. We don't know. They said he's empty. And then what happened? This man paid salaries. The previous one, they removed him. They said he was owing workers, he was owing pensioners, he was, the state was in very terrible debt. This man came around, he was paying salaries, he was paying the pensioners. At least there was evidence that nobody was being owed. And then boom, what happened? One concentrated on infrastructure to the detriment of the livelihoods of the people. People were not, it was kicked out. Next one came, tried to correct the ills from that one. And all of a sudden, here we are today. We have a new governor as well, who we have someone else who has been voted. So let me come to you, PLIDEite Sola Fayemi. Analyze this for what happened in Osun State.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Convener, for this wonderful and insightful session. Like PLIDE is known for, we are a pro-transformational organization that analyze the current issues and affairs of our nation, so as to also forge ahead for every key player to learn from that, and for us to strengthen our democratic ethos. And looking at what happened in Oshogo as demonstrated by the good people of Osun State yesterday, like I told some of my friends earlier today, I said it's just a clear expression of the people's wishes and their will and interest that prevailed. I told them, I said the result of that election do not underscore the performance of Governor Oyetola in Osun State. Over time, when you try to put Oyetola side by side with his predecessors, and people who have ruled that state for the last 10-15 years, to a large extent, Oyetola scored above average. And with that, under normal circumstances, we expect that that kind of person should be, massively voted to return and continue the good works he's doing in Osun State. But at this time, people said no, that we actually want to change the baton. We actually desire a different person. Even when people are saying that this guy is only coming to dance, this guy, from his interview and his performance at the recent debate conducted by Channel Television, he was hammering that he's coming on board to reclaim his Tony mandate. He's coming on board to do this and do that. To a large extent, he was not able to say practically what he's going to do for the people of Osun State. But he said at that time that they don't want a boring governor. They don't want somebody who will be speaking English. It appears that people of Osun State want a governor that will be dancing, a governor that is going to be entertaining them away from the different issues, and the administrative mess that Cuba the state. But again, I want people to know that we cannot also disconnect what happened in Osun State away from people's tiredness of APC misgovernance at the center. Everybody at one point or the other have always shown our concern and our grievances against the level of insecurity, the economy not working fine, the fight against corruption that invariably and to a large extent we cannot see the actual fight against corruption. All these are what PDP also used to campaign for people in Osun State. Also, lay Christians to the statement made by the national leader of APC and the presidential aspirant saying that people in labor, invariably doesn't want people to labor in vain. This also, generated some level of controversy and uproar from people of Osun State, saying it is their right to vote for who they want to vote for. Either they are going to labor at the same way they want to do it, it is what they want at this time that is going to prevail. And invariably, we also have to, appreciate the role of INEC in this election. To a large extent, this election is being transparent enough. The results were transmitted online. Even at the time, towards the late night yesterday, that we had issue with the network of INEC Saber, but they were able to resolve that. And people were even expecting there's going to be a time where they had issue with a particular section of Ife, where they said there was a violence at that particular section, that there was going to be, INEC declined this election as inconclusive. But the INEC commissioner in Osun State stated clearly that this election is going to be concluded and the winner is going to be declared. But as you have it now, Governor, the dancing senator, Adeleke, emerged as the governor. And like I said, it is the wish of the people. It is what they wanted in Osun State. But our question will now be, how far can Adeleke sustain this confidence that Bill reposting in? Is he going to do anything different? Is he going at this time, bring on board, intelligent men and women, bring on board technocrats who are going to change the fortune of Osun State for better? These are the questions that is only for him, and we pray that God is going to give him the required, wisdom and power to do. But at the same time, some other people also felt that this result and the outcome of this election cannot be disengaged from the fracas currently going on between the present governor and the minister Rauf Aregbesola. And I beg to ask this question: that even in 2018, when Aregbesola was the governor of that state for the straight 80 years, what was the result of that election between him and PDP? It was at that particular time that the election was inconclusive, and then the leadership of APC had to prevail on Senator Yola Omishore for them at the time that the renewal was conducted, for them to win that governorship election. That if Aregbesola, as widely acclaimed, that is very powerful, that he has his pedigree, that he has the tentacle, he has the stronghold of Osun State. He should have delivered at that time when he was a governor for 8 years. Widely, with a wide margin to have defeated PDP. But that was not the case. Even for this current governor to have had that number of votes, despite the issues and despite the leadership indices that have not been working favorably in favor of APC, this man to a large extent try as much as possible to pull his weight. But we should not also undermine the influence of Adeleke family in Osun, in Ede. I tell people particularly over time, if you look at the history of Osogbo metropolis, PDP over time have never won Osogbo as a town. But in this case, we had a reverse in that case. Now people turn out en masse, and if you look at the vote that came out from Osogbo as a town, PDP got the majority of this vote. That is to say, this is what people desire. This is what they want. Away from the imbroglio, between the current governor and Aregbesola. And I said over time, if people are saying it, we can see what happened in Ekiti State. When people in PDP, when he felt PDP was not the best place for him to fly, their kites, he went to SDP, and we knew what he pulled in SDP. Why is it that, the person who is a front runner, who happens to be the close ally of Aregbesola, left APC and went to another party? What was his score? That is to say that it is not, they wanted to spoil it, they wanted to play a spoiled game, or because they had that kind of publicity or that pedigree that is going to make them spoil the result of this election. But people actually said that this is what they wanted, and what they wanted also played that role in Osogbo election. Going also to Ife area, over time, we knew right from the time of to when Senator Yola Omishore also came to PDP and now in APC, he has consistently been delivering Ife for any political party where he aligns with. But what we saw yesterday, different scenario played out. And PDP was also smart enough to have picked their deputy from Ife, so as just to neutralize, the strength and what has always been coming from Ife in favor of Omishore.
Daniel,
Ife people felt, our son is now the national APC secretary, and what has been the influence has been the national APC secretary. They are now beginning to look at it as
maybe a bottle of water.
Now we've been having our son as the national national APC, secretary, and now we're going to have another son who is going to be the deputy governor of the state. Having the two of them does not stop anything. Now APC is still holding, Omisore is still holding his position as the national secretary, and invariably another of their son is also going to be the deputy governor. It is the pride of people in Ife.
You check that
pattern. Demonstrated in the vote that came from Ife yesterday. We are also PDP.
You know that long cup, the new one, clean one, and use it. If you need a street to get it, use it, and then fill it with water.
The strong goal in PDP also deliver his own place. So what we are saying and what's felt in Osun State is just a clear demonstration of people's determination, resilience, and for them to say this is what we want, and also a good one for our democracy. Away from what happened in Ekiti. We saw a video of two young ladies who collected money during the last governorship election in Ekiti. And they were, showing it off. They've collected money, they term it Dibo, Kosebe. They collected money and they vote against their conscience. But what happened in Osogbo yesterday? People at the time, some collected money and they voted for their conscience. Some people outrightly rejected inducement from some political parties. And like you say, we can say that there is light in a democratic system. We are going to have a better democracy if people's will and people's interests continue to make ways in a democratic decision. Invariably, we are going to get it right. But as for Osogbo, like I said, this is just a clear demonstration of what people wanted, and that is what manifested. And again, we should not forget the role of the Adeleke family in Ede and particularly in Osogbo. Consistently, this family have always shown their interest in an humanitarian aspect to the well-being of the people in that community. Anytime they are having a notable festival or a notable occasion, this family will bring in rice, they will bring in palm oil, they will bring in all sorts of food items as a relief for people in Osun State. All of us know that Osun is purely a civil servant state. Few of them also engage in agriculture. So just like that at the time are going to be reciprocated. And if you also look at what happened to the Adeleke, the elder brother who was formerly in the governorship race, Sherubawo, people felt over time. They also saw it as a form of vengeance against whatever they transpire or what they saw as political, vendetta against Sherubawo, which later led to his death. And over time, he struggled to become the governor of that state, and it did not come true. And now, what we can see has been a reflection of people paying back the good that Adeleke's family has always been doing in Osun State. And at the same time, it's a desire for a change of government, away from not underscoring that Oyetola has not performed brilliantly, but for them to see that this, as it is now, we've had some straight 12 years of APC, government in Osun State. Let's taste another person. Let's see what this person is going to bring on board. That's why they say he's a dancing senator. That's why they say he has nothing upstairs. That's why some people also said he has parallel F9 in his SSC. But people of Osun State have spoken loudly that this is who they want that they are governor, and their will, the supremacy, automatically prevail. And that is just a clear summary from my perspective of what happened in Osun State yesterday.
Okay, PLIDEite Sola Fayemi, please just stay there. We've got the privilege of course, the ASUD. Thank you so much. We get this every week. I always mute myself, forget to unmute. I mute myself as well, even though I'm moderating. Thank you so much, PLIDEite Sola Fayemi, for that very, very, very in-depth analysis. Because, there's so many questions on this. There's so many angles people talk about. Of course, the Davido aspect could not. Yesterday, I actually was looking through. I got notifications from Twitter and having to look at it, and I actually saw quite a lot of people, some people tweeting, and tweeting their own their ballot papers, and just sending it across and saying, Davido, I have voted. Oh, this is my this is the ballot paper. This is I voted. Of course, look, he's got the star power. And you've got a lot of youths on social media as well who want to be noticed by these stars, who even idolize them. Of course, there's that element. Some people have also mentioned the portable aspect that, for me, I saw some visuals, and for me, it was very. I asked the question, do they really have strategists in APC? Who was the one? Look, get me right, I know Portable is a Nigerian, he's got his own fans and supporters, but the visuals were just they were just really they were discouraging, and they're not the kind of things you really want to see, so. And of course there's a question to ask. When when the transition was going on, it was from Aregbesola to a new governor. The people of Osun State, it was loud and clear that they didn't want anything to do with Aregbesola. Of course, he had created a religious disharmony with his very funny, single uniform rule and all those things. And of course, Nigeria is still suffering it. Before he came, we were not fighting over uniforms. We were not fighting over things. He started it, and Murik gladly started fighting the people in... Murik started fighting the people in international school, University of Ibadan. They went there to start it, and of course Lagos State, of course that has gone all the way to the Supreme Court. And the next thing, you have the wonderful man from I believe Delta State, who has been to court twice now in his traditional worshippers attire. And of course, the man who was before a judge during the week, and the judge had to step down the case in his Christian, in his bishop robe as well. So, so all these things actually, well, the earliest I recall of them, of course, they've always been Simri underneath. But Aregbesola actually elevated this thing into into a problem on the national level, or even though it was happening in his state. So, at that time, people were complaining that, this guy wasn't paying salaries. He was owing, he was doing, and he had embarked on quite a lot of infrastructural development, and at great cost to the state, to the point that, of course, with all the problems of the recession, with the value of the naira and everything vis-a-vis the dollar and other index currencies, Osun, could actually not meet up anymore with servicing its debts, and at the same time, carrying out the responsibilities. So the governor was inheriting a very bad state. So all of a sudden we're saying this governor has not owed anybody, and yet the people of Osun do not want him. But this is interesting. These are interesting times in the life of Nigeria, and of course, as we discuss this, let's not forget to spare a word for Labour Party. Peter Obi, he was accused of not going to Osun Ekiti State. This time around, he went there. From the results, I think it was so bad from the final results that, in fact, as I yesterday at some point, they had about 360 votes when I even stopped following across the entire state. Is that Labour Party? Is that the structure that people have been talking about? A lot of the youths on social media, they're in that same state, or for your Osun State. And if you look at the new voters card PVC registration, Osun State has actually had a very, very significant number of youths actually going there to register. So what about all those youths? Did they not vote for the Labour Party? Is it actually the fact that, when push comes to shove, local politics and local affiliations actually trump the call for the Labour thing? Or is it that maybe APC's actual, the threat to APC's retention of their office, rulership at the national level in 2023 may actually be the PDP, is it? Rather than Labour Party. Is it time for the Labour Party, Obi's movement, and everybody to change tack and actually re-strategize? Or is it moving over to PDP or APC? I'm just saying, all these things. But fortunately for us, we've got another intellectual in the house. We're getting two for the price of one, basically. Prof was supposed to be here for the ASU discourse. We're moving that discussion till next week. Professor Yomi Fawehinmi, obviously you all know him, but he's a facilitator. He's a very much sought after coach, It's so many things. At times I struggle, like I said, and I'm not joking when I say this. I struggle to describe him at times because when you have someone who's got everything, in terms of knowledge of different areas, the economy, so many things. But we're privileged to have him with us this afternoon to join in the conversation as well. Prof, sir, what happened in Osun State?
Okay. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, sir.
Thanks for the privilege. We were supposed to discuss ASU, but Osun is the remaining thing.
Yes.
Let me first congratulate the winner of the election. It's an interesting election, and let me congratulate the winner. Let me also congratulate the people of Osun State for, generally the election was without violence. It was fair and fair. There were some skirmishes in some parts later yesterday night, but all by and large, it was fair. It was without violence. So let me congratulate the people of Osun State. Let me also, because it's important for us to also celebrate some people at times like this. I think we need to celebrate INEC. I keep saying it that of all the public sector agencies in Nigeria, perhaps INEC is one of the ones that have shown a commitment to continual improvement. For every election, you will see an attempt to improve, which we must not take for granted.
Daniel,
if we're going to be talking about the root cause of success for yesterday, INEC and civil society, of course, the National Assembly's passing the Electoral Act that allowed for electronic transmission of votes. Remember, yesterday when the results were coming in, people were afraid of what would happen over the night. But the man in charge of the election, who is also the Vice Chancellor of the University of Lagos, made an announcement yesterday night and said, as of today, all the results have been loaded to the server. So that singular thing calmed now, because people felt that what happened, there's some states in Nigeria where somebody will win during the day and then another person will win overnight. We've seen that happen before. And we have also seen that same happen in Osun State, where somebody won the election. Remember 4 years ago, this same Adeleke won the election, and then the Vice Chancellor of the Federal University of Korea at that time.
Thanks for bringing me this. Can you give me 2 tablets from it?
And then somebody won. So we must celebrate some people. We must celebrate the Vice Chancellor of the University of Lagos for calming things down. We must celebrate the two parties. Let me talk about those that could have decided for people talk about Labour Party. Again, we can't situate what happened in Kitty, Osun State as a standalone. It's part of a whole. Labour Party would struggle in Osun State for very obvious reasons. They had a candidate, the former Deputy Speaker, Osun, who people in Osun State felt has not done enough for them. They compare him to the Speaker, Femi Gbajabiamila, and see the amount of project that Femi has attracted to Surulere. And they feel that this man has not done enough.
There has to be, because I just bought last week. Tell Simi to come and give you.
Right? And beyond that is the fact that this candidate really didn't put in the serious work. I always tell people, look at Segun Oni. Segun Oni in Ekiti State went to campaign under the platform of SDP. In SDP in the Ekiti election had polling agents in over 92% of the polling stations in Ekiti. Segun Oni joined SDP less than 4 months.
Yeah.
And they were able to do that. So, you see, there are a couple of things you need. You need a platform, which Lasun had in Ekiti State, in Osun State. You need a candidate that is acceptable to the people, which Lasun was not, but Segun only was. And you also need to work. Let's be very sincere. Check all when the Peter Obi did not go, personally, my opinion was that there was no point going. The candidate is not working. If we didn't invest in it, I'm a firm believer in it that does not work should not win. Last one did not work, so if they didn't win, he knows himself. So let's leave it. So it's not a referendum on Labour Party, it's more a referendum on Lasun and his role as when he was deputy speaker.
Now, talking about the two parties that won, remember again, these people are known to themselves. For me, the biggest lesson for me coming from this election is 3 lessons. Number 1, keep your family close. Number 2, be relevant in your town. And number 3, don't go to war with a divided house. Those are my own 3 takeaways. So the first one I said, keep your family close. Remember, the governor-elect became senator when his brother died. That's the late Sherba Osi Sekaleleke, and he became a senator. So if he did not have a good connection with that man, he will not use his glory to become the senator, and then he ran for election. So this man had kept his family. So from the late Adeleke that died, that he took over from, to the father of Davido, and Davido, I wrote it somewhere yesterday that I have never seen anybody in the arts and culture entertainment industry in Nigeria that has been so much invested in an election like Davido has done. He has been there, he has been all over the place for his uncle. Somebody said it is because it's his uncle. I said, what? Doesn't say it all how because did you see his own relatives do that? So this man had a family, and the family was not just for him. The family is heavily endowed. So you had the senior Adeleke, who is Davido's father, who has the money. If you remember when this governor was declared the governor-elect, he went and prostrated for his brother. I mean, that was the central bank of the Adeleke family. I mean, that's the man that bankrolls everything. So there was a family that there was money. There was also a family that also had influence in the times of the Davido effect. Now, all of this worked for that. So that's the first thing. Keep your family together. I mean, invest in your family and make sure your family is with you. The second one is also keep your town locked down. If you check the election result, the biggest difference we have in this election came from Ede, the 2 local governments in Ede. This man got almost 10 to 15% of his votes in Ede alone. I mean, so Ede is permanently locked down for the Adeleke family. It has happened in the last 6 elections. What that man, who is the senior Adeleke, has done in Ede, apart from being a philanthropist, he has identified with them. There's a university. The man, I tell people that what that Adeleke man has done in Ede is what the late Saraki has done in Ilorin. How individuals can keep a town locked down, similar to what Adedigbo has done in the Bible. And so, for those of us who are interested in politics, don't ignore your town. Don't be active in town union when they are doing the bench show up. I mean, which is my own second big area, and which makes a difference. The third one is related to don't go to any battle with a divided house. And that was a problem of the APC candidate. The last election, you became governor with less than 500 votes. 4 years ago, the votes between you and Adeleke was less than 500. So it was a tight race 4 years ago. You should go to a next election with everybody that was behind you, with you at the minimum. But then you fought Lasun left APC because of the primaries. Alegbe Ferafede was disgraced. And then Tafik too also felt it was disgraced, and they left. Now, they didn't leave the APC. Again, that's another difference between Ekiti and Osun. In the case of the same thing happened in Ekiti, APC primaries. People were annoyed, but they didn't leave, and they did not work against the party. In the case of Osun State, they didn't leave, but they worked against the party. They wanted to teach this man a lesson that we made you, and you see the results in Elisha, you see the results in Oshogbo, and you see the results in Ife. And the very important thing to mention is the fact that as we have people emerging, there are also local staff that will start to emerge. And the previous speaker made that very brilliant point. The deputy governor for the PDP is from Ife. As initially has gone to Central, as they call it in Yoruba land, he has gone to Federal in Abuja. His influence on ground starts to reduce. And that's just the reality. New leaders will emerge. So if people have gotten to will buy one, get one free, they have a national secretary, now they're going to have a deputy governor. You saw it there. I think we also need to interrogate what happens at state capitals during elections. If you check elections considered in Nigeria, state capitals have always pretended as if they have the mind of their own. You saw that in Ado Ekiti. You saw that in in the election in Osun to where Oshogbo people voted against a governor who is not owing staff. I mean, the economy of Oshogbo is lying in the hand of the civil servants. A man who has done well for retirees, but headquarters always prove they are different, except Lagos. Except Lagos. And so for me, those are the things that explain some of the things that happen. I'm happy that this makes everybody to go and work. The assumption that anybody will just slow in and win an election is getting demystified in Nigeria. I'm hopeful that the Nigerians will see the result in Osun State and get encouraged and say, hey, we can make a difference at the end of the day. Our votes count. Let me say this. People will say vote don't count. Please, votes count. If votes don't count, why do politicians pay for votes? Why do they do say and buy? It's because votes count. And we must go out. So as more elections come up, people should show up, vote, and vote for their candidates. And in conclusion, let me congratulate the good people of Osun State and hope this our new governor will do well. Because at the end of the day, I mean, what's the point when you get the results and then you don't serve your people? It's just very unfortunate. And I like all the states that have been having this transition between parties. In my state, in Ondo State, we had Labour come with Miko, then we had PDP, now we have APC. In Osun State, they have APC, they have PDP. In Ekiti State, they have PDP, they have APC. In Edo State, they have APC, they have PDP. Now, you see, those states that have been able to oscillate, you realize that on average, they seem to be doing well. Because the governor knows that he will be punished at the next election. And that's the problem of Lagos, where every governor knows that there is no punishment. We have the current governor of Lagos State that has practically left the state and has become principal personal assistant to Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who follow him all over the place. Now, he is almost sure that he believes he will win that election. And so for those states that have that polarity, they see the benefit of democracy. Because, if I don't do well in 4 years, they'll punish me. And that's what I want to appeal to Lagosians. Punish politicians who don't do well. If you have senators, House of Rep members who don't do well, punish them. That's why election is every 4 years. You don't let anybody assume that nothing they happen, like Two-Face will say. Let us know, make people know that something will happen if you don't do well. And I congratulate the people of Osun State. And the governor-elect, if he doesn't perform in 4 years, punish him in 4 years. Let somebody else come. Everybody knows the only thing guaranteed for me is 4 years. I will work for you for that 4 years and make a difference. It was that thing that made Fashola to work hard. Because Fashola was sure that if he doesn't do anything, he was going to go out. And he worked like somebody else in his first time. And of course, the people rewarded him. He got over 1 million votes in the second time. And then you had another governor who came after him, Ambode, who assumed that he would get a second term. And seems in 4 years did not finish any single general hospital in the whole of Lagos. Of course, the owner of Lagos came and removed him. He brought in this new man who, as in my own assessment, has been less than average. But because he also has an assurance that nothing will happen. And he has gotten the ticket, he has an assumption he will win. Lagosians, wake up, vote and show people that they got to serve you. What's the point having periodic election if people know they will win? So I congratulate the people of Osun State, and I also congratulate PLIDE for this conversation. I'm hoping that there will be more results to talk about and then more surprises. And let's hope that this new governor does well for the state. I wish Davido will really make a difference in that state, because he has helped his uncle. He should do beyond that. I mean, this guy has the cloud connection to turn Ekiti, so to turn Osun State the same way Donald Duke made his own state the place for attraction. He has the money, he has the network, and they can suddenly become the center for musical performance in Nigeria. How nice would it be for Davido with his connection to bring Shakira, to bring Beyonce to Ede, and they do it as a regular time. And then people start to go for holidays in Ede, people start to go to any Jesha waterfall, people start to go and watch Osun Osogbo. I mean, that is what we should be thinking about, and I believe that they will take advantage of this time. Thank you for the opportunity.
Prof, I know you're rushing to go, but please, there are 2 questions because people will not forgive me if I let you go without asking these questions. Number one, the nexus between these results and Bola Ahmed Tinubu's presidential ambition, because people have said, you know what, you've lost. This is part of your own base. Of course, I personally point to Sokoto State in the northwest, which APC lost under General President Muhammadu Buhari. So, of course, it's these things are not neither here nor there. But you know, from someone like you who has a bit more in-depth knowledge about these things, number one, how does that impact that presidential ambition, or how does it favor? Does it have any negative impact on Asiwaju Tinubu's ambition, or does it, because the PDP have played this out today to mean Atiku's acceptance in the southwest, and you know, one of them actually used the word omen, that this is was it Dino Melaye, you know, our usual friend who would everything turns to a joke, you know. So he did say that this is an omen, that of course the people of the southwest, and by extension the people of Nigeria, are actually very receptive to the Atiku presidential aspiration. That's one. Then number two, of course, I drag you back to Labour Party again. You know, of course, you've done a very excellent job of excising, you know, the Lasun beats to say, well, that's not a stain, it's just the candidate. And how does, because those are two states where, in terms of structures on ground, when election time comes, in terms of a sitting governor, the appurtenances of office and everything that he can use to run an election for a central candidate, you know. So back to that Labour Party, the same Labour Party conversation. How can Labour Party move from this to ensure, or is there something to say, well, in the movement, in the OB movement, so to say, that, you know what, irrespective of what is happening on ground in certain states where they're not making any headway, and actually not even having governorship aspirants in many states, that don't worry, it can still be. Of course, Obi was governor of Anambra State with a PDP, with, I believe he didn't even have a single, maybe just a few House of Assembly members that were from his party. It was a PDP dominated House of Assembly. Of course, they impeached him, he came back and all those things. So let me come back to you on this on these two things. Prof, please, could you share your knowledge of about these things with us?
Thanks, great question. Let us remember that Osun people have always proved that they are independent minded. When Ribadu was running to become the president of Nigeria under the balance of 18, Osun State was the only state in the southwest that voted for Ribadu. So Osun people have always shown they can vote for who they want to vote for. And I think using Osun alone to analyze the popularity of Atiku or Peter Obi, we may not be able to use Osun to generalize for 36 states or for even the other 5 states of the southwest. Remember, if Dino says this is a good omen, you should remember that a few weeks ago we had the Ekiti election where the PDP came third. Was that supposed to be a bad omen? I mean, Ekiti and Osun are contrasts. I mean, if you want to draw conclusion on Ekiti and you want to cut and paste to Osun State, all your theory will fall flat. Because Osun has always been peculiar. So let me lay that foundation. Then talking about the chances of Governor Ahmed Tinubu, former Governor Ahmed Tinubu, I think this will be I think he will be surprised for a couple of reasons. One, Governor Etola is relative. Two, compared to other governors, and the previous speaker said it, and I agree that this governor has been relatively decent in terms of his performance. I mean, relatively decent. And you will be surprised that the people who punch him, particularly people in places that were natural APC strongholds, right? Everybody knew Ede was good to go. But how do you explain Ila, for example? Ila, that is the base of the one of the national leaders of APC, Chief Bisi Akode. For a couple of, 2 years back, the federal government just, through the instrumentality of Bisi Akode, gave a university to Ila, for example. So how do you then still lose that in that kind of place? How do you explain losing in one of the local governments in Ife, where your Omishore is supposed to be kept on lockdown? How do you lose the two local governments in election? So you or in Ejibo, where PDP has always not had the necessary of time. So it comes as a surprise. But for me, I think for the candidature of Ahmed Tinubu, it shows that there will be surprises. Don't go to sleep. Again, maybe it could also be a rain on him on the way he talks. I mean, going to Oshobo to tell people they will labor in vain was totally or not. I know every time that Bola Ahmed Tinubu goes to campaign for any candidate, he must say something that will make that candidate more disliked. So at the same time too, I do not see any relationship between Adeleke winning and the support for Atiku Abubakar. Adeleke won because people wanted Adeleke to win. It's got nothing to do with Atiku Abubakar. In the next election, presidential election, you may be surprised, like I told you, people can vote for another candidate. So that would be my view on that. I don't see how this helps both of them. While it gives momentum to the PDP, and one of the things I wish for personally was that as we are going towards the 2023 election, there were the two closest election before our national election is the GT and the Osun election. And I always wish that one party does not win the two states, because it could discourage some other people. Now we have had the 1-1, and I say 1-1 go, let's go, right? So what it does is that it makes all the parties to be on their toes. Right? For those that are dominant, PDP and APC, make them realize that we got to keep our ground so that we don't lose. For those that are trying, like Labour, it gives them hope that if somebody can snatch from the sitting governor who did fairly well, then we can also snatch something. So I like what we are going to. And I feel that, don't forget that the presidential election is still February of next year. The idea of, you don't have presence and all of those things, you don't have structure, you don't have people. You can solve that problem. I mean, with a volunteer model, that can change for Labour. Labour can get people. Don't forget, people are not supporting Labour Party. People are supporting Peter Obi. They're two different things, right? It's the same thing that happened to Mimiko when he left PDP and he went to run on the platform of Labour. People did not support Labour in Ondo State. They supported same thing that seems to have happened in Oyo State with Accord. People want Ladoja, not Accord. Same thing happened in the Delta State. People wanted Osakwe, not Accord. So there have been all these parties that, I mean, there's a senator in National Assembly who is from Young People's Party. YPP has a senator. So there are times when people follow people around and they say, even if you go to the name of your party is No Party Nigeria, we will follow you there. Which is what seems to be happening to Peter Obi. So I feel that I do not think Labour will get any gubernatorial candidates. I don't think so in 2023. But I think that because people want, like Peter Obi, people will volunteer to be his representative. Coppers are all over the place. If for example, all coppers choose and say we want to volunteer and be your party agents, I will not collect money. And I think with what we saw in yesterday, people will volunteer to be agents. The last point I want to make is that every political party or every political area, you know where you don't need to waste your time. Honestly, between me and you, if I am Peter Obi, I'm not going to put money in the Kitty Osun election. And I'm not going to pay agents to be there because you know that you don't stand a chance at the gubernatorial level. Last one stood no chance. But at the presidential, you may want to try your luck and see what happens there. And see how you can get some people to volunteer and some people to make things happen. The biggest example where I've seen that happen is in Ekiti. Shehu Oni left the APC in the PDP in annoyance in February, joined SDP, and the election was in May or June. And between that time and then, when they were going to do election, SDP had electoral agents in 92% of the polling booths. So it's possible. It's possible for you to get agents. It's about recruitment, right? And in a place where there's a lot of employment, recruitment is not a problem. Yes. As we currently speak now, if I call Peter over and I say, I want to pay for all the party agents in Ondo State, how many polling booths do we have there? If I don't go 100 naira for people, some people need 100 naira to eat. It's not something that big, right? So something can still happen between them and them, but I feel it's a lesson for everybody, particularly those that want to assume that, it's a slam dunk. Hey, it's not a slam dunk. And also those that believe that they can't try this thing. I'm going to end on that note. I wrote an article 4 years ago about this same Adeleke man that this guy is a political neophyte. Let's be very sincere. We didn't know him when his brother was alive. His brother died and he decided to take a chance. He took the chance and won. And he has ridden on that chance. Now he's going to become governor. I mean, for many of us in life, it's just one chance we have. If that guy had not run immediately, his brother died, we will never know him. So life is about time and chance. Sometimes you have a good chance, but the timing is wrong. Right? That's what happens to some of the young people that came out at the last national election. The timing was wrong. Now, at this time around, the timing seems to be different because people have tested the PDP. They are tired. I mean, PDP was in government for 60 years. They are tired. If you wanted to run against Buhari at the last election, people have not tested him well enough. It was just 4 years. So when all those Mogadu, Pelagro, Showoro came, it was like, we're still trying to lead this week. We don't know whether it's good enough. Now, APC has done 8 years. PDP has done 60 years. People are now like, we have tested, both of them, we are tired. We want an alternative. So the timing sometimes fails a candidate, and that could be what will be there. Don't forget, those that punished the APC in Osun State yesterday can punish the PDP in another election. Because at the end of the day, human beings will do what they like. Thank you, sir.
Prof, I know you. Okay, I'll let you be for now.
So because... You're mute.
Prof, sir, please, I know, let me do this Oliver twist, and why not let me do this rather than even keeping you there, and then you can just choose to go off, and then continue to convert. We actually have one of the agents on ground in one of the party leaders from Osun is part of us. Alaji Tijani Fatai is there with us, so we're going to be getting first-hand information of what happened. But before you go, Prof, I want to. It's related, but at the same time, not really part of the conversation for today. The Muslim ticket. It's a topic on its own, and we're going to be having a webinar on it. But it's very important to talk about it. Of course, what Ganduje was alleged to say, of course, some people said he didn't say so, that it was just a lie against him, that, went to a mosque and said, vote Oyetola because he's the only Muslim governor in the southern part of Nigeria. And of course, people have made the argument from the northern part of Nigeria that the southern part of Nigeria has got loads of Muslims, and yet in many states, you have Christian governors, governor and deputy governors. That's especially in the southeastern part of the country and southern part. So they run this argument that that if the South could decide that it's only one governor of the Islamic faith they want to have, what is the point of fighting against the Muslim ticket of Asiwaju Tinubu? That's one part. Then of course the second part, which has come into more focus, is what happened from the by virtue of the victory of Senator Ademola Adeleke in the polls yesterday, and of course, straight away, the PDP camp, some of them went to war against Nyesom Wike. So, well, this is it. We won without you. The PDP is still a very formidable machine, and that your presence isn't really as valuable as you actually had assumed it was. There's that dynamic, and of course, Wike came back from the PDP convention, and that interview that went viral, that speech that went viral, where he talked about his own brothers stabbing, and of course people made reference to the governor of Bayelsa State, Duoye Diri, and of course the governor of Delta State, Ifeanyi Okowa, who was the one that actually hosted the meeting of the 16 Southern governors, I believe, where the decision was made to insist on the presidency coming to the southern part of Nigeria, whereas he himself and his state delegation then went on to vote for Atiku Abubakar. So all these things, the dynamics, so those two things, I just wanted to quickly help us touch on it, Prof. I assure you, don't worry. Or as our president will say, I assure you, after that, we'll just let you go, sir.
I mean, it's an interesting question on the Muslim tickets by the APC presidential candidate. let's my own view. Actually, I'm working on an article, but I've not released it because I feel the timing is not right. The issue with the Muslim ticket is it's about people's understanding of the concept of diversity and inclusion. It's not about winning an election. It's about you understand diversity and inclusion. So, if you look at it from that point of view, you will have a totally different look at it. So, and then arguments. I mean, a dear friend of mine told me, but Awolowo in 1979 ran on a Christian ticket, and I asked him, did he win? He didn't win. He said, yes. I said, but secondly, I know you are old enough. You were alive in 1979. You know what happened in 1979? This man wanted to run with Northern, and his northern friend turned him down. He decided he was going to run with somebody from TIF. And then the people in the Middle Belt told him, some of his good friends said, don't pick a TIF man because an Idoma man will not vote for a TIF man. And then he now had no choice that, okay, the only monolithic ethnic group in Nigeria is the Igbos. Once I couldn't get Hausa, there's no monolithic in the Middle Belt. The only monolithic, and then he ran against it. I said, you know that story. So it's not as if Awolowo went out of his way to go and pick a Christian. And by 1983, he ran with a Muslim from Sokoto State, or which state was that man from? So it's about we understanding our diversity. So when people say, you know, I ask this question, you know, again, we are students of history, and Bola Tinubu is also probably we don't know. 1999, but Bola Tinubu was a struggling man in Lagos who wanted to become governor. But what did he do in 1999? One of them. He chose a running mate. He chose Lady Koforo-Lola Bokno. Bola Tinubu is a Muslim male. He chose a female who was a Christian. So Bola Tinubu knows the importance of diversity and representation. He did that in 1999. In 2003, he ran with a Christian, right? And then you'll see that in Lagos State, for example, they have had that the diversity has been consistent. However, remember, because when Bola Tinubu was explained, he said he's going back to June 12, 1993, and what are you talking about? Don't sell. That's ridiculous. 1979, Lateef Jakonde is a Muslim. Lateef Jakonde is not from Lagos State, he's from Kwara State. Lateef Jakonde ran with Alhaji Jafojo. There were two Muslims that ran in 1979. They ran in 1989, is 83, and Lagosians voted for them. So it's a question of you must understand the times you are in. So when Jakonde did that in Lagos, that was the time it was in. When Emeka Obiola did it, that was the time it was in. This is 2022. When a country has gone through a lot of challenges with religious, people have died, people have been killed, and then it was just an evidence, it's just a crash case of insensitivity. I mean, that's the way I say what Bola meant to know. So it was just not being sensitive. That's one part of it. The other part of it is not being a statesman. Because his problem is that he wants to win politicians who think about election but not tomorrow are not statesmen. El-Rufai did it in Kaduna State. He picked a lady at the last election and won. But has Kaduna State seen peace? Have they enjoyed the peace? So it's not just about winning elections, it's about respecting people. If Bola Ahmed Tinubu has picked Amina Mohammed, that brilliant lady at United Nations, it would have been a totally different thing. Because while it would have been a Muslim ticket, it would have balanced it by making it a male-female ticket. You know, there are only two, research has shown there are over 25 dimensions of diversity. Height, color, race. In Nigeria, there are only two dimensions that are 50-50, almost 50-50, only two. Number one, gender. Estimate shows that the population, the balance between male and female in Nigeria is 49-51%. So that is the closest we have. The next one we have, we don't have any data because the Nigerian Population Commission has not been measuring religion, is religion. Where people believe that Christians and Muslims are almost close. So those are the two dimensions of diversity that are the closest in Nigeria. So you now want to go and run for an election and you want to respect diversity, you disrespected the gender one, right? Because you did not pick a woman. So you ostracize 49% of Nigerian you disrespected the religious one, and then you're satire 48% of Nigerians. That was pretty insensitive, and anybody who does that, I believe, should be punished for it. Because at the end of the day, you do that. The last point I want to make on this is that I saw, was it Joy Bouquet, one of those intellectuals in APC. You know, one of the things about being brilliant in APC is that you must be able to talk brilliantly, but you are lying. You know, you must have that capacity to talk very brilliantly, but you are telling lies. And it was like, oh, you know, in the US, people are bothered about other things. They're not bothered about things like that. I mean, we are bothered about religion. And I said, that's not true. There is nobody who has been the deputy presidential candidate in the US that is not a Christian. Why have they not picked a Mormon? Of all the Christians in the last 10 won, 7 of them have been Catholics. Why? So don't tell me religion does not matter in the US. Religion matters in the US. Don't tell me that age does not matter in the US. Don't tell me that the last election, when Joe Biden was struggling and didn't know what to do, when Joe Biden was running to become the candidate of the Democratic Party, the person that gave him the biggest wala in all those debates was Kamala Harris. Right? If you remember, 4 years ago, it was Kamala Harris that was always on his case when they say who has a question. Kamala Harris faced him. And then when he won the primaries, it was obvious he needed to win the election. And you know, the suburban women had the strength of the voting bloc of Democratic Party. So it was sure he needed to get a woman on board. But you know what he did? He decided to use one stone to kill two birds. That, okay, I need to get these suburban women who are the biggest voting bloc for the Democratic Party. But I needed to assure the blacks. Remember, Biden was speaking for him and supporting him. But Biden speaking for me is not enough. He decided to go and pick the same Kamala Harris, who ticked many boxes. 1, she's female. Take that gender box. 2, she is black. Take the gender box of color. She's also Hispanic. Remember? Take that box. She's also an immigrant. Take that box. So in Kamala Harris, there were like 4 diversity blocks that you saw in Kamala Harris. And again, don't also forget, Baba is old, Kamala is at 50, so there was also that balance. So so when people say the other countries don't do it, that's not true. Why did Obama pick Biden? Obama was new. He was a new kid in the block. It was his first year as a senator. Biden has been a senator since the 70s, so Obama needed to balance his young inexperience with this man that was older. Why did McCain pick Sarah Palin, the governor of Alaska? He needed to show diversity of gender. He needed to show diversity of Alaska to say we accept you into the union. So every governor, every presidential candidate in any election where you need a running mate, you must use your running mate to signal your understanding of diversity. I feel that Governor Bola Ahmed Tinubu in 1999, in 2003, showed he understood diversity. But because he wanted to become president, he decided to throw it away. Will Nigerians punish him for him or not? I do not know, but I feel he should be punished for it. And the reason is very obvious, because we cannot have 2 years ago, we were talking about the killing of George Floyd. We cannot have all those issues that came up that made companies started to sign up laws and rules around diversity. And then somebody does this. I mean, we must, as a country, understand we're a diverse nation. And we must ensure that politicians, businesses, have people who respect diversity. I had to send a tweet out. One CEO of a company came on Twitter and said anytime he is on an interview panel and a Manchester United supporter comes on the board, that Man U supporter is sure that he's going to get a job. I came on Twitter and I said, you can't talk like this as a CEO. Your company will not go far. How can you be selecting based on football club they supported? It shows you don't understand diversity. And I said, you will kill your company because your company, even Man U will not remember you when your company died. we must ensure that we respect diversity. It is not human beings that created diversity, it is God. And therefore, when people disrespect diversity, they are showing they do not respect God enough. Why will you disrespect Muslims or Christians or women or blacks or white? It's the same thing. And for me, somebody said, this is Muslim thing. I didn't know Christian ticket. I said, my fight is not whether it's Muslim. I'm just saying respect diversity. Sameness is not what the word is. They say variety is the spice of life. I feel Nigerians, you have a choice to make, because the question is that if you allow this thing to happen, if Bola Ahmed Tinubu can pick a male, can pick like him, can pick an ex-governor like him, can pick a Muslim like him, can pick a rich man like him, the sameness was too much between him and Governor Shettima that he can tomorrow pick his son as a running mate. Because it's going to be the same thing. Check all the boxes that Shettima picks, his son could have done that. And that's what we should be careful of. Thank you.
Prof, no, the other part, there were two questions in one. We talked about the Wike angle, the PDP, and and of course, before you answer that, I want to ask you: are you anti-APC? Because I'm just saying, people watching this will say they'll be expecting me to ask: do you have something against APC? Are you a PDP supporter, or you're just a man in the middle, a man who just wants good governance? Because it does appear that everything you've said, APC have just actually bore the brunt of your anger this afternoon.
No, I mean, again, let's be very sincere. I mean, I don't have any political party. I'm an equal opportunity hater of bad governance. Anybody who doesn't do the right thing will get the same touch from me. But I mean, APC will obviously be focused because they are the ruling party.
Absolutely.
And therefore, they will get more attention from anybody who wants to talk about good governance. Interestingly, I've been accused of being a supporter of PDP or APC at various times. During the election 2 years ago, I was on TV clamoring and appealing for support for candidate Buhari because I felt he represented something that I think I liked at that point, his law for anti-corruption. I also saw the way he was able to show the capacity to drive change with his war against indiscipline in 1983, 1984. And I felt that was enough. So for me, my own attitude to every election is who is the person that best represents good governance. When it was Aregbesola versus Oyinlola, it was obvious that Aregbesola had something better than Oyinlola, and I supported him. When it was Obaseki against the other man, I supported him in APC. So for me, every election I look at, for this last election, I didn't have a candidate. I mean, so I really don't care. But maybe talking about the Wike angle and whether Wike did the right thing. Wike has a challenge, right? And that's the fact that you don't make friends by fighting people. The good book, the Bible says that he that will want to make friends must show himself friendly. You can't fight everybody, abuse people, your party members, abuse opposition. I mean, just if I was also in Atiku's shoes, I would not want to pick a weak as one. Reason being that I don't know what you can't predict. There's a certain level of the reliability you want in somebody at that level. And for me, as the governor, he didn't do that. You can't predict it. He was a bit too combative. You abuse former APC. I mean, when you lost the presidential primaries, you knew there was a vice presidential opportunity coming. That's the time you should have calmed down, kept quiet, and kept his cool. But he went to do that video that you referred to, lambasting his brothers and saying that they are not worthy of governors, and then goes on and Yoruba say that if you want to catch a monkey, that will be like you can't go to politics fighting everybody. I mean, that's not part of the lessons we have learned from the Osun case where the APC fought 3 principal men and they got punished for 8 years. So I think Governor Wike needs to change his style. If you want people to love you, you must make yourself friendly. I mean, Solomon wrote it in the good book, he that will have friends must show himself friendly. The friendship is an investment. If you don't invest in the friendship, they don't invest back in you. And for me, I think this man has not done that well. that's why it will be difficult for him. I mean, people, whenever he says all those things, people would like to watch it because it gives you a little bit of an entertainment or comic effect. But that's not the kind of person you want to follow to battle, or that's not the kind of person you want to make your assistant because you don't know what he will say. So I think, and then finally, the victory of Osun State yesterday has got nothing to do with Wike's absent, has got nothing to do with Atiku. Osun people wanted to vote for Nuruddin Adeleke. That's what they wanted. It's got nothing to do with PDP. Nobody should say that. It's not good. If Nuruddin Adeleke had gone to another party, it might have won. That's what I feel. And you know the funny thing, people have also said Nuruddin Adeleke is a Christian here and there. I said, but I mean, his name is Nuruddin. I mean, he said he's Nuruddin. He has not told us he's a Christian. I've seen him wears white garment, but he said his name is Nuruddin. I mean, what's there between Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Nuruddin? I mean, so if you accept that Nuruddin is a Muslim, if you say Nuruddin is not a Muslim, then Bola Ahmed Tinubu is also not a Muslim. So, I think it's just a time. I mean, it's just a question of timing, and people really wanted to show that we want this man to win. His people elected into voting massively. The civil servants who are the bulk of the population of Shebo showed that when you pay our salary, don't use that as a campaign promise, because it's our duty for you to, it's your duty to pay our salaries. We're not going to reward you because of that. The people of Villa showed BC Akonde that you just don't impose people the way you like on us as the APC candidates. We're happy. We thank you very much for bringing a university there, but we will not vote for candidate. The people of Ife said, okay, we already have in our bag the Secretary General of the APC. Life is about adding more to what you have. Okay, if you vote for APC again, what else will we get? Nothing. There's a deputy governor in PDP. We will get it. So so people made rational choices. If you people ask themselves that very basic question that if this man becomes governor, is there likely that we will become our own turn? So it's about people making rational choices and voting the candidate that best suits them, which I think is what happened in Osun State.
Thank you so much, Prof. I know if I were to say anything again, I'll actually be pushing my luck too far on this. Thank you so much. I really, really want to appreciate this wonderful man, Professor Yomi Fawehinmi. We've spoken about him several times. He is a facilitator. He is a coach. He's been a lecturer in many universities, Federal University of Technology, Akure. He's lectured at the University of Ibadan and Pan-African University. He's a public affairs consultant. He's, like I said earlier, and he currently works with one of the biggest multinationals in Nigeria. Thank you so much. Of course, he's an alumnus of the Federal University of Technology, Akure as well. Thank you so much, Professor Abayomi Fawehinmi. Next week, and of course, you know the Fawehinmi name. The Fawehinmis, it's the same Fawehinmi family. And of course, he carries that in his blood as well. I want to appreciate you, Egbon. Thanks for always being there. Next week, it's going to actually be the part 2 of the ASU discourse. This week, where because of Osun has happened, we're taking Osun tonight, discussing all the things, what actually happened in Osun. And for those who are just joining us, at the beginning there, we had our Secretary General, who is going to come again. He did quite a lot of analysis, and we're going to bring him back to help us analyze certain other aspects. And of course, then we went on to Professor Abayomi Fawehinmi, who's been on for, I think, about the last 25 minutes or thereabout. Thank you so much. Next week is going to be here with Dr. Adeoye Oyewole to continue our conversation on the ASU issue. And of course, next week we're having the chairman of the NUJ Chapel, Osun State, joining us because this is a press issue. This is an issue for the press, for the newspapers. And I believe that we actually touched a raw nerve with the last conversation. But let me not bore you with that. I'm just going to go straight to one of the senior officials of the APC in Osun State. He was an agent on ground in these elections. Let's hear from him. Alhaji Tijani Fatai, what actually happened? And of course, today we saw the press release by the governor who said, well, I'm studying I'm calling on the people of Osun naturally to be peaceful. I've seen the results. We're currently studying it. And of course, quote and unquote, just paraphrasing, we're going to be making a statement. So obviously, it's typical. Of course, the judicial, like we mentioned at the beginning of the program, the judicial aspect of it, there's the electoral aspect of it, and then of course the judicial aspect is a continuation. And of course, if the APC or other parties want to approach the court, and then it goes on and on and on and on. TJ Fatai, let us hear from you. What actually happened on ground in Osun? Why did the governor lose, despite, of course, Prof did mention it, that no longer should people be campaigning with high paid salaries, because it is the entitlement of the civil servants. And of course, people have complained about the performance of the governor in the second debate, the one hosted by the channels television. It was people, and personally, I went to look at it as well, and I was like, in fact, personally, if I was undecided and I was looking for someone to vote for, based on his performance in that debate, it was super quiet. You had 5 people coming. It was like people didn't prepare him for, you might be a gentleman, you might be a man of few words, but a debate is a debate. So if I'd gone watching that debate and making up my mind that what I see in that debate would actually decide who I vote for, there's no way I would have voted Governor Oyetola, because it was such a poor. It was like he allowed the higher ground for Lasun Yusuf of Labour Party, Senator Adeleke, whom at the end of the day, I must be honest, after the whole thing, I was asking myself, what did the guy say? What did he promise? I know at the point he said, I'm an international guy, we can turn Osun to London. Of course, that was the way people interpreted it. I didn't really hear much. But at the end of the day, when you yield the higher ground to your opponent, of course, it does come back to bite you. TJ Fatai, are you ready? Let us hear from you, please, if you just want to unmute yourself.
Good evening, everyone. And first and foremost, let me say that I'm not yet a chieftain of the APC.
Oh, I apologize. No, I apologize. I shouldn't have said that. I know you're not, so, but you were on ground. That's what I actually wanted to say. And I said it correctly the first time. So sorry, go on.
Secondly, let me say that the elections have come and gone. And it was an election between the APC and the APC. The Ogbeni factor, Ogbeni Aregbesola factor, and the Oromiyan/Ilerioluwa factors played their roles. But the unfortunate thing, and the most shocking aspect of it all was that the governor had people in his the governor had people in his administration who were never people who wanted his progress, but he did not know them. But as the event unfolds, I think the political space will start to identify people, and to make it easier for people to be able to really pick up the kind of people they will really decide to work with. I was at the Coalition for a Center till this morning, and how it all started, yes. The governor was over prudent in spending. He's not forget that he's not the political type. Yeah, just like the Prof mentioned an Adeleke who had an opportunity and took it. The governor is also not an individual that is politically, balanced. But be that as it may, he came on board and he did well as far as some of us can see. The governor had what it takes to rule. He did his best. The idea of anybody talking about salary in campaign currently, because even the opposition party that eventually won the election also said it, that I have enough money to balance up whatever that you are being owed, is that we have had the situations where workers are not getting their salaries. And so it became a topical issue, that one of those things that are used to, induce the populace in thinking that when they come, our welfare will be a yardstick in their government. Yes, elections, we did whatever we wanted to, as elections are supposed to be organized and etc. And as an observer, I went around, I saw things, and I knew, because the Osun state politics is so sophisticated that the moment they decide to take a decision, it's always very difficult for anybody to turn them back. Osun, like I always say, is a state where everything or anything can happen at any material point in time. Politically, when they take a decision, you do nothing about it. When Baba Akede was the governor, he was eulogized as being a governor that Osun never had his time. But eventually, when these people got tired of him, all he did mattered not to them. They took their decisions and still excused Baba from office. When Oyilola's second time was coming up, they told him they would not support his second term. He went on, contested, and eventually Aregbesola came in. What really saved Aregbesola was that Aregbesola had a Jonathan as president, and he had he had the opportunity of saying those things are not working, they are caused by the center. He had someone to, even if it is not true, he had someone to, divert the attention of Osun people too. That yes, because this person was in government, he was denying me of most of these things, and that is why I'm not being able to do this. But I know Yetola, a man of few words, does not have such capacity, because we have an APC at the top. And so I must say that Oyetola did not lose to a PDP. Oyetola lost to APC because the top fashion, majority of them were working for the APC. Even though I can say, without missing word, that the Minister of Interior in the person of Ogbeni Aregbesola was never in support of anybody working against his party. But when people make up their mind, it will get to a point the leader will lose touch, he will lose control over the decision made. The fashioner chairman joined PDP long time ago, but he did not make noise about it. Some certain local government chairman in Osogbo joined PDP long time ago, but they did not make noise about it. So it was a game of people being within the party and working against the party. Majority of the people who work against the party were those of Aregbesola's, though not in connivance. I'm still underlining the fact that Aregbesola would never ever support anybody or anything against his party. But those people at a material point in time took it upon themselves that they have come of age and etc. And it is because we are with him that makes people see him as a leader. And so we can also take decisions, because at a point they started even discussing the fact that Aregbesola did not grow up in Osun, and so does not know much, that he was just given privilege to come and rule the state and etc. and they cannot continue. More so, Aregbesol's think tank is think tank and not indigenous of Osun. The real people you work with. I have somebody from Kogi State, for example, the other guy from Ondo State, others from Kwara State, and etc. And so if Aregbesola has an opportunity of listening to this, I advise him that jettisoning the people that came from other states, because most of whatever that he did here, the people, the indigenous people of Osun that are with him are the people facing the wrath. And so when you leave your state and start pampering people from other states, giving them even the opportunity of insulting people from your own states where you have governed before, these are the kind of things that we see. Now, it has gotten to where it is now. So what's next? Elections have been, won and lost. I was at the Coalition Center. I saw things for myself, and I do not think, by the virtue of the caliber of people who did the returning thing, almost all of them lecturers in the University of Lagos, and who their presentation as everything went on very, very smoothly. But I do not see it as a means of people losing hope about what they are intended, what they have interest in. Note also that the politicians have a game, and their game is that the moment they don't want you in office, they use one. I noticed that it's either they said your party is no longer wanted or the individual. In the case of the incumbent governor, nobody said they did not perform. All they said was, we do not want APC. They did not say we do not want Toyota. If you look at the campaign slogans, and most of the people coming to meet you to talk to you about why they want it, they tell you the APC has been in government for 12 years, and that will do, and they should also go so that others will come. And the unbending factor also took a toll, because I would have expected that a week or 2 weeks before the election, it comes back, and so that it comes back to tell or make a press release that APC is his party, and that whomsoever that is with him should continually work for APC. That would have, to a larger extent, salvaged the situation. But I will say this without missing word, that his faction of APC worked against APC to the advantage of the PDP. So when we talk of the issue, this says something about his performance in channels. The man had people around him, like I said earlier, who never loved him, who were interested in what they make. They may be whatever. He might have appointed them to whichever positions. Let me say this. As the event unfolds, some of them will start leaving government and be traveling out of the country, because they were in government based on what they stand to benefit. They weren't in government because they love the man who is the governor, nor do they care about the populace. The unfortunate thing is that majority of them grew up here. And so, despite the fact that they grew up here, they do not see themselves as, because you see, when you have people who haven't seen anything before, when you have people, I'm sorry to use this word, when you have opportunists in governance, all they do, like one Yoruba Afa will say, people are always afraid of poverty when they grew up within the ambit of poverty, when they did not have people really training them, when they have to run around to make sure that God has answered their prayers, they are always afraid going back there. And that leads them into thinking about themselves alone, not thinking about the public and the general public whom they seem to be representing. And so the elections have come and gone, and we thank God that it's peaceful, and a winner has emerged, and that's just it. I don't know, the governor, it is normal for the governor to think of, seeking, it's Nigerians' mentality. It's our way here, and but what I observed yesterday in the election, I think the electorate spoke with the papers and the ballot boxes given onto them. My take.
Thank you.
My opinion.
Thank you so much, Alhaji Tijani Fatai. Thank you so much. It was just very. Thank you for joining us to give that perspective. We just needed to hear from someone on ground. I mean, largely from what you've said, one can't take it for granted that I mean, you couldn't have been in all the places at once, but at least you also actually gave vent to quite a lot of things that Prof said in terms of. You did make a statement that the people just say, you know what, they just want a change, they just, it was just time after 12 years of APC, they wanted another party. And of course, Prof actually made that analysis even before you had spoken. And of course about the governor, the division in the camp and all things, and it's an election that we'll study, so we will study it, we'll keep studying it, and of course we wish the new governor elect, we wish him well in office. People have said he's very empty, but it's I mean, it could prove everybody wrong, and by making a go for it. TJ, please stay with us. We'll still come back to you. I'll go to PLIDEite Sola Fayemi now if I can have him back on camera. So that there have been quite a few issues that have been raised in the chats, and I mean, let's give attention to the chats as well. There are quite a few things that are there. Okay, of course, most of the Prof's analyses are valid, very valued views, I tell you. Osun people are peculiar and dynamic people. What works in Ekiti or Oyo doesn't usually work in Osun State. And then I beg to differ on the view that Oyetola lost to APC. At a time when we had all of these stalwarts in APC in 2018, and that's in response to Alhaji Tijani Fatai's talk. At the time when we had all these stalwarts in APC in 2018, what was the outcome of the election against PDP? So that's another angle. And the issues are deeper than we see in the peripheral. And what happened to all the young and vibrant local government leadership he put in place across the state? Now, it was a massive movement against APC and not Oyetola. So let's have you back, PLIDEite Sola Fayemi, to actually elucidate on these points. Sola Fayemi. And TJ, please stay there. Like I said, we need you back. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Mr. Governor. Yes, I want to at the same time appreciate Prof and my good comrade and the leader in the state, of the society channel too, for their divergent views and in-depth analysis of the system. And like I said, I thank God that TJ also cooperated and maintained same stance. That what we experience in Osun is a collective and a determined response against APC manipulation and misgovernance at the national level. An average Osun person believes that if APC have been in the hands of Afen in the last 20 years, and we've seen the best that APC offer, how can we now taste another person? Let's see how to taste governance from a different perspective, from a different party, and most especially if Adelike's family over time have this long-standing commitment to humanitarian approach, and how well they've been to the ground, and how they've been affecting the lives of people in Osun, particularly in London and Chubu Assis. Can they now replicate, say, in a larger perspective in Osun State environment? That is just the one thing that's not played out. And like I said, also people are saying that we knew that Adeleke is a Gazi senator. We know that this man, does not have things something like they were campaigning against him. But they reported and collectively, said is he that they want. And I tried to give a scenario of Osun, the political dynamics over time. All of us knew that APC or whatever party, AD or what have you, have always been this way in what dictates and the vote coming from Shukwu metropolis. When this last election, we had a different thing. And I remember I also talked about PDP going to Ife to pick their deputy governor, so as to also forestall, the mandate and to forestall the threat of Omishuri from Ife. And the same thing happened. And like I said, even in 2018, when Adekesola spent 2 concurrent terms, we knew how this election was keenly contested. We knew the result of this election. It was inconclusive. Until the APC stalwart went to Ife to persuade Omishore to come to the account. And when Ife was contested, invariably, even at the time, I think he came to a large extent contested the result of that election because he felt he won that election. It is the same thing that played at this time. For us to say that because fine, we had fracas, within APC, automatically we are not expected to go into election with a divided act. I was bent on giving the scenario of what happened in Edo State. And Edo State was a case where we had Osun against the present governor, and this man left this party, went to another party, and he won this election. That is to say, fine, we cannot always say and probably support or encourage fracas within political settings. But at the same time, there's always polarity of interest, and we cannot have everybody on board at the same time. We had the same issue in PDP in the state, where he moved from PDP in less than 4 months and went to SDP, and he was able to become the runner-up. And why can't we have the same thing in APC in Osun State? It was just a clear demonstration, a strong determination, and the will of the people to test a different party and to test a different person. It is not to underscore if Oyetola has not done badly or well. I'm forced to say, compared Oyetola to the last people who have governed before him, Oyetola has brilliantly done well. I was reading, the center he set up across the state, and unfortunately now, people and politicians in Nigeria always see payment of salary as a scorecard. They see it as a laudable achievement. When statutory is a fundamental responsibility of the government to see to the welfare of the people and to ensure that people who have worked, who are on the payroll of the government are paid. But in this case, in a place like Osun State, when the same Aregbesola, was paying the civil servants in Osun State out of their salary for over 3.5 years. And that was played out in the last election. When no holds weight, it's unfortunate it's beginning to see himself as a warrior, to see himself as somebody who has contributed immensely to the downfall of Oyetola. It is far beyond it. It is not a strong resolution of the people. It is the dictate of the people, and this one expressed in Osun State is just a clear demonstration of people wanted. It is far crying, from either Oyetola has performed or not. And also when we look at the Ife, Ife people are very dynamic. Ife are also very smart people. Fine. Currently, they are having their son as the national secretary of the APC, and at the same time, they are having their son as the deputy governor of the state. They are an advantage. At the same time, when you look at Silesia and some other areas, the governor Oyetola over time, I'm forced to say, and I'm going to be corrected if I'm wrong, the level and the number of the young guys who are at the heads of our peers in all the local government in Osun State is highly unprecedented. He made sure that we had we have chairmen of local government who are under 35, we have young and very bright minds who are being discovered, their talent in politics. All these things are highly commendable. But what actually happened is beyond all the scenario, people can as well do brilliantly well. You started the issue of Akonde, you started some other issues in Osun State. People could do brilliantly well, but they could say at this time, we've had the best of you. Let's taste another person. Let's see how best the Dancing Senators can do. But like I said, in as much as I want to congratulate Adeleke on this election and all his victory. But at the same time, this is a litmus test, for his capacity. It's a litmus test for him to see that governance is not only about dancing and jamborees, but it's a serious assignment which entails giving the right leadership to the people. And this confidence that we repose in him must be justified. And on trust on people, they are only giving him 4 years. If he found, definitely they are going to change his party to someone else. But this is a litmus test, and this is a test for him to prove himself to be worthy of this mandate that was freely and collectively given to him by the whole of Osun people. I bet so interesting.
Okay, thank you so much, PLIDEite Sola Fayemi. That was I'm gonna bring you back, and TJ is waiting there in the background. And of course, I'm not calling Prof except he chooses to join again. He's done his bit for us. There are very key issues that you touched on, and of course you disagreed with one of the points that was made by Alhaji Tijani Fatai about the people voting for or against Adeleke, against Oyetola. Now the Labour Party, I know Prof has done so well to analyze this, and this is not me trying to reanalyze it. This is me actually saying, you know what? it is a question that we need to start talking about. And of course, Prof has said, you know what, that it is not labor that people are actually, and he gave the example of Iroko, former Governor Mimiko of Ondo State, winning without, moving from one party to from PDP to that party straight away and winning right away on the Labour Party. So it was actually his own personality that carried the party rather than the other way around. And in this case as well, there's that belief generally that that personality actually that is actually Obi's personality that is actually powering the movement. And of course, we know it's not the party per se. Now, and of course, Lasun's performance, former Deputy Speaker of the House of Reps, Lasun Yusuf Sulaiman, of course, he kept I don't know why he kept repeating that during the debate, maybe just to emphasize his religion or something. He just went on, I am Sulaiman, and with Sulaiman, Lasun Yusuf, that performance was very, and of course, during that debate, one of those with the brightest ideas was actually the SDP guy. I watched the two debates, and the guy was cerebral. It was, there were times I struggled to actually reconcile Ogunbiyi, the industry mogul, and Ogunbiyi, the one who was actually doing those debates. I just could not get my head around it. So there are many questions for the movement, to install Peter Obi, for so many things. But, let me, before I go back to Sola Fayemi and TJ, and we're going to try to finish within the next 15 minutes. It's only fair. We've had PLIDE Ayole. We've had quite a few people in and out, but at least let's go to Lukman, to PLIDE Lukman to have a say, and then we go to Oladaya Falabi after that. And I believe we've got Dr. Danladi Shendam, but let's start with Ayole Lukman, please.
I wanted you to allow me to react to
I just hold on, TJ. Okay, immediately after Ayole comes in, now you react to that, and then we get Oladaya Falabi as well.
My phone was not shut down, sir.
Oh, okay. You go on. Ayole, please. Apply that. Lukman, please. Can you let Alaji go on first? Alaji Tijani, go on.
Yes. Let's yeah. Let me say that the 2018 election was won by the incumbent governor. When you look at what went into it, at that time, Anomi Shori contested on the platform of the SDP. A former governor of the APC, the man from Iwo, also contested on the platform of ADP.
Fatai Akimbade, former Secretary General, Secretary to State Governor.
No, not Fatai Akimbade. Fatai Akimbade is of the PDP. This man is.
No, I'm talking back then. He defected as well to contest on the platform of another party. Yeah.
So that's really it. What brought about.
And I think it was Moshood Adeoti you wanted to mention this time around. Moshood Adeoti.
What brought about the closeness into the 2018 election of the PDP and the APC was that Anomi Shori contested and had the ability to move almost all the workers in Osun to go along with him. And Aregbesola had done the half-salary thing, and the workers were looking for an alternative. And so they believed the alternative would be given, they could see the alternative in Anomi Shori. And that is why the bulk of workers in Osun voted for Anomi Shori, who eventually did not win. And so, but I am taken aback when people still discuss that somebody won in the 2018, when a Supreme Court of the land had convincingly justified the fact that the incumbent governor won an election. I don't most times give in to discussing that which is in the past. But be that as it may, I go in tune with Mr. Secretary General, whom I also know that has friends spread across the length and breadth of Osun, and I know he has his information. But like I said, when Osun gets done with you, there is virtually nothing because nobody would accuse Abayomi of non-performance. And I'm still waiting for anybody to say that we did not vote for him because he did not do well in governance. No. Except that they were just fed up and they wanted a change. And they believe that if one of those things that they thought could have that he could have done was that they thought they were looking up to him probing an Abayomi, for example, that if it were another party, that Abayomi would have been brought back to account for this, that. But the unfortunate thing about it is that an Abayomi, the projects the monies were used for can be seen. They are all there. We can see them. Nobody need an EFCC to know that Abayomi performed, except that he overshot the finances of the states, which led to the half salary regime and etc. And so it has gone and it has gone, and Osun State remains, and those of us within Osun still remain in Osun. And we pray that, like I always pray, that yes, somebody has by God's grace won the election, and I pray he has the capacity and God gives him the wisdom to rule Osun and to take us to the promised land. Thank you as I bow out because it's almost time for me to leave. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much, TJ Fatai, and for that, of course, for helping to clarify that, and but of course, just to make a point, the fact that someone has done projects and the projects are there to see does not mean that questions cannot be asked. For example, if someone has I'm just gonna. I believe they're calling prayer where you are now. So I've just muted you now. Someone could have a project that's supposed to cost 2 billion. Someone could inflate it, and all things. Thank you so much for joining us and for giving us those insights. We appreciate you. So we know you have to go for prayers now, so we release you for that. Let's go with PLIDEite Lukman now. PLIDEite Lukman, let's hear from you, and then after that we take Olade Afolabi, then Dr. Danladi Shendam. I believe that should be the end of the program for tonight.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Yeah, actually, 2018 that my comment was talking about. If we could remember vividly, we realized that the Osun State people were very angry, most especially the workers, that Abayomi was not paying them their full salaries. But despite that, they still find their way to win that election. Why was it possible? Because if you look at Oyetola does not have the political capacity to win that governorship election, if not for the support of someone like Abayomi. So that's why I'm saying that factor is very, 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 is one of the key in this present election. On Wednesday or Thursday, either Wednesday or Thursday, I can remember that I still saw Abayomi in Lagos State at Alau Saje. I saw him, I was not told. I saw him myself. And they have that kind of election on Saturday. What is he doing in Lagos State? When he knows the strength that PDP is pulling in his state. It tells us something. That is a signal. So for us to not say it doesn't have any effect. Then secondly, yes, I will commend Adeleke also, because it seems they realize one of their weak points and where they actually failed in the last election, and they work on it, which is Ife. The vote they got in Ife and Oshodo is a plus to them. But if we have had Abayomi with them, yes, there can be division within a party. But as an incumbent governor, you can't totally remove him completely in that party, and you won't have problem. We have, and presently is a minister. That also counts. What make it more easy for this man in Ekiti State, Fayemi, is because he was a minister. being a minister, you will still have many followers that will be looking up to you. So you now want to remove such person completely in the system. It's not done. Most of his followers with them, comedy TJ said, Abayomi does not have control over there. I don't take that. Sincerely speaking, Abayomi is aware and he knows what he's doing. And that's why I said I still saw him last week, Wednesday or Thursday in Lagos State, when they had that kind of serious election in Osun State. So it's a lesson, it's a great lesson to APC towards 2023 election. But I don't see it in affecting the general election or most especially Lagos State, as the Prof said the other time, because Lagos State already, the structure is there. I've said it before on this platform, that if you want to defeat the ruling party, every individual must be able to invest. I thank God, Prof mentioned it in one of his statements. They must be able to invest in their neighborhood. So who is going to do that investment for Labour Party? Who is that individual that will bring out his money in this Nigeria of today? We believe that yes, Peter Obi is going to win in 2023, and they'll pay for him to have party agents, to have canvassers in each polling unit. So those are the key points. So until we are ready, that's when we can get the results. That's my only two contributions, sir.
Thank you so much. Until we're ready, that's when we'll get the result. Thank you so much. Thank you for that deep insight. You're not a man of too many words as well, but your points are usually very deep when you do make them. Thank you so much for your views. We appreciate you, and thanks for always being constant. At our webinars, you hardly miss any, so usually once you miss, we're looking for you straight away, because we go like, and the last time you missed, and we were actually correct, we found out you were a bit under the weather. Thank you so much for always being there. Let's go to Olade Afolabi, and then after that we'll take Dr. Danladi Shendam, and then the SecGen will round off for us tonight. Mr. Olade Afolabi, PLIDEite Afolabi.
Good evening, the crowd.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, sir. Good evening, Governor. Good evening, Prof. And good evening to every contributor on the call. For me, I think what we witnessed is Osun should be an electing one to everyone who loves democracy. Given that prior to this time, there has been this agitation that our votes don't count, our votes don't matter. And those are the positives I want to take from this election. The last time it was easy for them to declare it inconclusive and re-strategize and all that. Let's not forget that a similar thing happened in Kano too. Kano election too was declared inconclusive, and it later became violent by the time the run-up was being done. And with the era of electronic submission of results, or it's made things. It has actually changed the narrative, and that's one of the positives. I hope by the next election we'll be able to have an agitation that will be heeded to for private candidacy, so that you are no longer under the pressure of political parties. Because most of the times when you have political godfathers sponsoring your election, it's one of the things that impedes performance, because people are actually indebted to these people. You have to pay them back. To them, it's for as far as we know, politics is business for politicians. Is their investment, and they want to get their return on investment. Sometimes 50%, sometimes 500% return. So, and as it is now in seasons like this, you begin to see people who are going to be going to both leading candidates
I mean, if like in the presidency, you find people going to Atiku and people going to Tinubu and giving the two of them huge sums because they know that their policy would affect them. So the point I'm making is, after such investments, people want to sit back and get something back. But if we begin to have independent candidacy, who, irrespective of whoever emerges from the party, because we know that sometimes who emerges from the party, it may not actually be a reflection of the collective decision, or may not actually reflect the minds of other members of the party. But like the last election, like primaries that we had, where people were at the mercy of whoever the delegates elect for them. So we can begin to have independent candidates who will just stand on their own, and people will love them for who they are and go after them. I think that is when we would actually celebrate democracy in the country. But at least we are getting there. So once again, congratulations to the PDP. At least, and once again, congratulations to the people of Osun State. To a large extent, I feel they are being liberated from political godfathers and jobbermen. And I hope that the new governor surrounds himself with people who are reasonable, people who knows their honors, and who will be able and allows them to also perform so that they can distinguish themselves in their various fields. I have no doubt that provided he surrounds himself with good people, he is going to perform well and make the best out of the situation that he meets on ground. So it's been a wonderful time with us on. Yeah.
Thank you so much, PLIDEite Oladaya Falabi. We really want to thank you. That's from Port Harcourt, Rivers State, Nigeria. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. That's one of our in-house professors as well. Thank you. Can I go to Dr. Danladi Shenna? Even though I am not seeing any audio, we're not seeing any audio connected. Dr. Danladi, if you just want to connect your audio and just join the meeting. Otherwise, we just have to run along because of our time. I want to thank everybody for joining us, and of course, we're gonna go. It's the SecGen who does the vote of thanks. But just as a reminder to let us know that next week, today, we've been very privileged to have Professor Yomi Fawehinmi with us, helping us analyze the Osun State elections and linking that. The links were very important. The linkages, they were very important in terms of, does this actually portend a shift towards PDP? Does it portend an anti-Ashiwaju Tinubu? Does it portend? And of course, he was able to help us break it down. That look, this was just an Adeleke victory, and of course, I hope people took note of all the things he said. Number one, he said, be relevant in the town where you come from. I know he made 3 points. I got them somewhere, but be relevant where you come from. And it's the same thing we keep saying. The other day on Twitter, I did see some youths were arguing about why should certain people be contesting? Why not just hand over to look around you? And I go like, but if those youths are busy partying and clubbing, and someone is actually paying, making the sacrifices, doing the hard work, really grafting on ground in those villages or towns, paying school fees. If you're in those places, it's not easy, because by the time people come to you and, the first thing you hear is, oh, sorry, sir, your daughter has been sent out of school, and you go like, which of my daughters? I don't have a daughter in school, but of course, you know what it means. They're saying that their daughter, their sons, they've been sent out of school. There are things, you pay school fees, you pay hospital bills, you feed people, you do all these things, and the Adelekes do it. And some people have said, there's large scholarship in the Adeleke University there, that quite a lot of people don't even pay anything, so look, give and take. There's no way the people will not pay them back. Humanitarian programs. Thank you so much. You did. Yeah, we should not forget the humanitarian programs. And I usually say to people, when Fayoshe started in Ekiti State as well, the man got a tanker. He got tankers. He was supplying kerosene to households. Kerosene is like gold to many households. Because the alternative to that is to actually cook with firewood. So a lot of houses, once they see kerosene, so he was supplying them kerosene free of charge. He was giving out water with tankers to many communities where you do not have pipe-borne water, where even when you dig wells, you can, except you put extra money and go deeper and much deeper, you hardly get anything out of it. These were the things, so, and by the time the elections came around, the people just gravitated towards him. And also, I say this to people who talk about the Tinubu movement as well. You can challenge it, but rather than talk on Twitter, rather than just know it all on social media and why not just start doing the movement on ground? Why not be relevant in your local government? The other day I was asking some people, I said, who is the chairman of your local government? And I got there was no response whatsoever, because many of us have taken governance. We've said it on this program so many times. We've taken governance to mean the federal government alone. We're not concerned about our state governors. We're not concerned about our local government chairmen. We're not our chairpersons. We're not concerned about our councillors. We're not. And if you talk to the average person, the average youth on Twitter, they don't want to be councillors as well. None of them, they're too big as well. They will say to you clearly that, look, who wants to go and be local government chairman? But the fact of it is, this local government, if you do not want to be councillors, you do not want to be local government chairpersons, male or female, then the natural thing is the so-called godfathers that we talk about as if they're people from space, whereas they're people from amongst us. These godfathers, godmothers, quote and unquote, whatever you call them, the fact of the matter is, they are the ones spending the monies in all these relevant places. And the last time, people were talking about, they went to they rigged the election, they rigged the primaries. And I said, how did they rig it? A lot of those delegates that came there actually had their nomination forms, where they were filing their nomination to be elected as delegates. Many of the presidential aspirants actually paid for the delegates at the local government level. They paid, all the delegates. I believe it was 3 per local government, if I'm correct, or something, and they were paying for them. So if you've gone to a state and, for example, argument purposes, you're supposed to have 50 delegates, and you have 2 national presidential aspirants paying for them 50-50 percentages, and then one has, naturally, of course, human nature, you can never trust people to go. Of course, the late Sam Nda Isaiah did talk about, was it 6 or 7 or 8 people in his private jet en route to the presidential primaries. And then he actually had 6 votes. That means people, even in his private jet, did not vote for him. And of course, all of them were saying they voted for him, So those are the things, that relevance. When the time comes, some people have done the hard work on ground naturally. The system of patronage begins to work in their favor. So I challenge all of us, the youth, and also I want to challenge some of our youth as well, who seem to know it all as well. I believe quite a lot of people have gone through that stage. You're at that stage of life where you know everything and nothing else matters. Nobody else can get inside that system. The fact of it is, all of a sudden, I've been reading since yesterday, fantastic election in Osun. It was free and fair, the democracy, this. But the same people also condemn the elections in Ekiti State. So it does appear that if one party loses, the election is free and fair. If it does not lose, it is free and fair. Please let us respect our democracy. One of the characteristics of being a democrat is being able to accept the results of elections, so long as the indices, you look at it, the indices, significantly actually lend credence to its viability. And of course, we are younger Africa, and quite a lot of them who did certify that yes, there were instances of vote buying in Ekiti State, but that election was free and fair. The same organizations yesterday did say there were quite a few instances of violence, a few instances of vote buying as well, but by and large the election was free and fair. A true democrat will always respect the election or the results of elections. We're no better than the military or the people we call bad leaders. if we have anti-democratic means or attitudes or behaviors, or our makeup is anti-democratic, things are only right once they favor us. It is not the way to go. So I challenge all our people, please take note of that. Let us, so that we don't raise unnecessary tension and we don't cause unnecessary problems. Let me call on our Secretary General to actually at this point just give the vote of thanks, and we round up for the night.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. I want to sincerely appreciate all our contributors, the House panelists, especially Professor who came on board, and the other members who contributed on this panel. Like you said, lessons are being learned from this election. I'm sure that the active players are also, being taught their lessons. Lessons are learned, and lessons are also being taught from many of us on the fundamentals of having a united family, going into election with a united front, and at the same time, not lose focus on humanitarian approach to people in our society, people in our family, and people in our environment. I'm sure our democracy will continue to grow stronger and stronger. And what happened in Osun State, we are hopeful that 2023 general elections is going to be better, and it's going to be an improvement of what we had in Osun State. I want to appreciate everybody, most especially our audience, our social media audience, who are consistently giving us the constant. We appreciate your your consistency and your passion for us. I wish you all a very wonderful and a fantastic. God bless you. Good night, everyone.
Thank you so much, everyone. Bye.